All right, so yesterday we put in our new sprites. They are in this atlas. So we call it an atlas because it's got more than one sprite on it. But we need to actually render those things now. So the good news is I believe we already have our temporary safety functionality working. Like we've got a boolean that we switch whenever it's true. So as long as we pair what we render to if our self-temporary safety is true, we should be able to render our goods. So let's try to just get the first image drawn upon spawning. Is that the blue picture or the white picture of the... It's blue. So let's try to figure this out here. So it'll be in our ostrich render function, right? But now the thing is, look right here, if we're spawning, we're setting our atlas to our ostrich sprite, but that's not right. We need to set it to our temporary safety atlas. So the thing is, the arguments here are the atlas. I think they call it a texture. No. I think they call it atlas and then texture and then X and Y. Is that right? Love.graphics.draw. That's not what I wanted. Love.graphics.draw. It's image canvas. That's what they call it. So image like a drawable. Yeah, drawable. And then, oh, they call it texture quad. Okay. So we'll put, texture quad, but instead of self.atlas, actually, no, this is, yeah, you know what? If we're spawning, we never want to draw from the self.atlas. We only want to draw from the temporary safety. So if we look at our self.atlas, we assign our self.atlas the player atlas drawable. So if we give ourselves a self.temporary safety atlas, and we assign our temporary safety atlas drawable as our temporary safety alias member of our ostrich instantiation, which is the best way I can put that. Temporary safety atlas, just making sure in our main that we have temporary safety atlas as our drawable, which is true. Temporary safety atlas and camel case. Temporary safety atlas and camel case. Okay, cool. So this is our drawable. We're copying our drawable into our member temporary safety atlas of the same name, but it's a self dot temporary safety atlas. In which case, when we spawn our player, it's player one dot temporary safety atlas. But since everything is defined in terms of the class, we don't need to get that specific. So here for spawning, we don't want to draw our self.atlas. We want to draw our self.temporary safety atlas. Okay. Now, we don't want to draw the quad ostrich sprite because we're updating that. And we draw... So here's the thing. Where do we... Let me look at our player atlas real quick and see if I thought we had a 1 pixel buffer on our player atlas. So if we look in our player atlas What is it? Our player Atlas 2 is what we're using, I'm pretty sure. You can't see if there's a pixel on the right of that thing or not. There is. So does that mean we do change the viewport to be one set over after this? Let me look at our new quad. See, so I guess I'm still a little confused on what the difference between a new quad and a set viewport is. Because a quad is just a partial space of a sprite, but a viewport is just a partial view of an atlas. So I guess I'm not really sure if we can get away with omitting one of those two things. Let me see if we do this. Yeah, I think we do a set viewport. Let me see the set viewport. Okay, we do it right away. We set it to 1. So our quad, we set the viewport on our quad to be 1. So I guess we need another thing called spawning sprite. And in our spawning sprite variable, we're going to store in a quad. Or, yeah. Because the quad tells it what size, but the viewport tells it what part of the atlas, I'm pretty sure. So like we need to set the viewport on this sprite. So, but this sprite needs to have a appropriate details, because, and maybe actually we do need the 0, 0 there, because the quad, no, hard to say. But let's put, yeah, self.width is the width of our quad, self.height is the height of our quad, and the self.temporary safety atlas get dimensions, and that function get dimensions will return in a width and a height for our quad. I guess I don't get why we need, if we tell it a width and a height, why do we need to get dimensions? I'm a little curious. Let me get our music started again. Let me see what our, it was, love.graphics new quad. So love.graphics new quad. I want to see the definitions of the parameters, like a width on a height and then a source width. Oh, source width. So like the atlas width, atlas height versus the quad width, quad height. Okay, that makes sense. And that works here because this is the quad itself. So we're using the get dimensions function on our atlas, and then giving it an ostrich sized width and height. Starting at 0, 0 for the quad, we'll just need to change the viewport for our spawning sprite. So now that we have spawning sprite instead of ostrich sprite in our spawning logic, we do not use our ostrich sprite quad, we use our spawning sprite quad, which actually does need to be different. Even though they're the same X and Y, the source X and Y of that is different. So that's not all we need though. We need to set the viewport. So if we're spawning, where is our, for spawning logic, if we're spawning, then I'm going to say spawning sprite. How do we do this? Set viewport 1, 0. How do we do the set viewport? We look at our right here, XY width and a height, XY width, height. So we're going to set our viewport to 1 pixel inwards because of that buffer pixel, and then we're going to, at the very top of our image, our width is our ostrich width, our our height is our ostrich height if we're spawning. This needs to be a little bit different when we're switching it, flashing it, but I'm just trying to get a blue ostrich when I'm spawning at the moment. So, oopsie. I'm just trying to run love dot. Yes, 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 yes. Now, so the thing is, I fucked up. It's so now we're not trying to set. Fuck. Okay, okay. So yeah, it's not cutting off our feet when we're raising, and that's because our viewport of our spawning sprite is overriding our ostrich sprite viewport, and we're calculating our spawn based on this ostrich sprite. Hold on, let me see. Because without this line of code, we function like normal, right? No, wait. What? Oh, I took this out. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So yeah, we changed the atlas, or we changed the quad, but the thing is, when we were spawning, we were changing the quad's size, or because we say ostrich sprite viewport by your spawn height, and the spawn height is what's getting changed over frames so that it draws one more pixel as it rises up, as our Y goes up. Instead of our spawn height staying with our Y, our spawn height is being added at the same rate we're going up, so that it looks like we're growing out of the ground. But we're doing that on our ostrich sprite, not our spawning sprite, which we need to do. So we'll just put spawning sprite here, which I think we only need to do that. Do we do that just here? Let me see if that. Nice. Now it got twitchy. You saw it get twitchy, yeah. It's like right when it stopped. And the thing is, this isn't. Okay, I got an idea. This isn't when we're spawning. This is if our temporary safety. But if we're temporary safety, we are spawning. So I think we're good to say right above it, we can say if self.temporary safety self.temporary safety is true, then we change our spawning sprite by our viewport and spawn height only if temporary safety, not if spawning, because we want to be able to have our temporary safety when we aren't moving, which isn't working. If temporary safety, and it has to be down here too. If not self-exploded, self.temporary safety. Okay. Not right. This, we need something else. Fuck. Or we need else if self.temporary safety. Then if not exploded, then if facing right. 646. What are we missing? We're missing an end. to close function 609. But we've got an end. We've got an end. We've got an end, an end, an end. We've got an end, and... Bro, what? Near end of file, end expected. Where are we missing our end? If we've got an end, but why are we missing it, man? It's like that's what these lines are for. To like show you where the ends are. And there's no dangling end. We changed one thing. You know what? Fuck. What's going on? Okay, I don't see why that wouldn't compile. Bro, what do you want from me? Is that what you want? You want a bullshit end at the end there? Why would you work after that? Don't be working after that. Why would that work? It's like I can't be more clear about it, right? This if statement has an else if statement, and that has an end. Okay. Our render function has an end, and then we've got an end for this one, 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 we've got an end for this one. Yeah, we've got an end for this one. That's it. That's it. That's where we're missing it. Wait. No, we're not missing it because that's part of an else if. So why are you not working? No, you're working. You're still busted. Oh no. So the thing is, this line of code only runs if we're spawning, because it's in the else if, but we need to not do that. We need to just say, do this shit if you're not spawning, which is all of our normal update function, normal ostrich stuff. However, if we're self.temporary safety, then do all of this new stuff. So now that should stay us blue for the temporary safety time. We still get this weird flicker, right? Okay, so that seems to be working. Let's see if we can exit out of our blue temporary safety by walking soon. We can. We are still, look at this. We're like, fuck. Yeah, you see, like when we, right when we, right when we spawn, we shift. I think it's due to our, if you look, it's also our yellow ostrich, or our yellow player rather. So that tells me maybe something isn't getting switched just right away, or if not spawning. Yeah, I think we might need to check temporary safety first, and we say if temporary safety, do this. Yeah, we need to decouple these somehow, like, because what's happening is once we stop spawning, we're not spawning. So we set our atlas. We draw an atlas. So I think we need to say if self right and not self.temporary safety. So we're trying to not not trying to render this shit if we're still in temporary safety. We don't want to draw these sprites. Even if we're going to overwrite it, here something's getting fishy with like that's just flickering. So I'm going to say explicitly if we're facing right and we're not temporary safety, then you draw the normal ostrich. Else if not temporary safety, then you draw the flipped one if you're facing left. So maybe that'll fix our busted problem of it. Nice. You guys see how that's fixed now? If we do this, when we respawn, we're not getting that weird shift anymore like we were. We can walk out of our temporary safety, or if we wait 5 seconds, our temporary safety is up. Then, so I guess I'm curious if our temporary safety is working. So if we're blue, we should be invulnerable to hits. So I'm just gonna wait till a vulture kind of makes its way over here and is gonna hit me. Here we go. Well, you know, I'm looking for vulture to sweep me off my feet here. Here we go. Oh, yep, I'm invincible if I'm blue. Cool. So that seems to be working. So now that that's working, you know, the one step that we need is to offset our viewport every frame, you know, swap our viewport of our quad every frame to be the next sprite. And every frame might be too much, you know, 60 times a second. Every second there'll be 30 blues and 30 whites. That might be way too fast. Exactly sure, but I think that has to do with let's just see what is it, our sprite, our viewport of our quad. The viewport of our quad is what we need to update every frame to alternate. That way we can still draw our spawning sprite. So we need to set the viewport to our spawning sprite in our update function. So wherever we're doing if we're temporary safety, we're setting our viewport to this, which is the first frame, you know, frame 1. And then we need to say, how do we do this? Every frame we need to swap it. So we can do a little, there's a bunch of ways that we could do this, I guess. We can say spawn frame 1 gets true. If spawn frame 1 gets true, we're doing there, and then set it to false, and then, you know, something like that. Because the X offset here, since we're 16 pixels wide, plus our 1 pixel offset for the buffer, that means our second pixel, or our second ostrich, will start, our first one ends at 17, so then there's a pixel at 18, and then 19 would be our first. 19 on our X right here would be the viewport for our frame 2. I think, because it's 17. If we do it 1, yeah, 16. It might be 18, not 19. Let's try 18, I guess. but we need to say something like I'll just do a boolean here, and it's called spawn frame 1. So the idea here is it's just a boolean because we just need 2 values. So we're saying spawn frame 1 gets true initially, but then if we're temporary safety, we're in temporary safety, then if our self.spawnFrame1 is true, then we render our frame 1. And then we need to say, we need to set our spawn frame 1 to be false, so that the next frame this isn't quite right. Because here, look, if we build this out, we say, you know, we're asking, hey, are we spawn frame 1? Okay, then, you know, maybe there's a better, hold on, I think there's a better way to do that than saying it right there, because we don't want to override it. So we just want to say, if we're spawn frame 1, render frame 1 spawn, and then we can say otherwise, otherwise we want frame 2, which is if it's 16 pixels wide, it's at 0 index though. X is 0, yeah, so 6, well, no. The viewport, that's just X, right? The first parameter is X on this set viewport. Okay. Quad set viewport. It is just top left corner. Left corner along the x-axis, so it's at 0. So if we're a 16 thing wide, then 16 would be the first frame of the next one, but we have 2 pixels of buffer, so we need 18. So yeah, not 19, 18. So we need to say else give us frame 2, which is the same, oh no, oopsie. It's the same atlas. It's gonna be 18, not 19. Same Y, same width, same height, except this is frame 2. But the thing is, we're not changing this value. We need to change this value. So the thing was, if we change this value here and we say, okay, you were frame.1, so you actually get false now. Then we'll be false. Well, actually, yeah. So like we'll be false. We won't do this else statement because this if was already fulfilled. So it'll end after that. Then we'll be false. So then this will be false. So then we'll go to this else and do this, at which point we need to set it back to true. And now, maybe, hopefully with a little luck, we might be swapping our colors. We need an end at 130. Yeah, we need an end right here. I try to write the ends as soon as I make them. Yo, look at how fast that is. So you see, like you can hardly tell. You can hardly tell. You know, I mean, it gets, you know, it's twice as fast. Like we need it to be twice as slow as that. So how do we make this? How do we double the frames it does this? How do we alternate it only every other frame? We can call it self dot. I don't know, spawn frame count gets a spawn frame count. +1, and then well, we need to only swap this. So like if we're spawn frame 1, we set it to frame 1 viewport. We increment this thing called spawn frame count, which we don't have yet. We need to give ourselves. So now we have a field called spawn frame count that initially gets 0, so that's an integer, and then we Lua does all this stuff. Like in C, you'd have to say, hey, give me enough space for an int. But Lua is like, you just assign it something, and it knows this is a Boolean because I assigned it true. And it knows, you know, this is a integer because the constant is an integer. So it's kind of smart like that, but dumb in other ways. So I'm still learning those intricacies, but we don't want to swap our spawn frame 1 to be false until our spawn frame count has exceeded 2 frames or 3 frames. Let's try 3 frames. So it's like we're gonna say, you know, increment our frame count, at which point the next frame will come. It's almost like we need to say, like, if our self.spawn count, for spawn.frame count is greater than 2, meaning it's 3 frames. If our spawn count is greater than 2, then we need to swap. Our see, how do we do that? How do we say like that our self.spawnFrame1 needs to get assigned to the opposite of what it currently is? So we say not self.spawnFrame1 because it's a Boolean. So it gets assigned. No, that's not quite right. Because if this is false, then I think we need to say, if our spawn frame count's greater than 2, then if our spawn frame 1 is true, then we need to say our self.spawn frame 1 gets assigned the opposite Boolean. But otherwise, you know, if our spawn frame count is greater than 2 and our spawn frame 1 is false, then we need to assign our spawn frame 1 to be equal to, how do we do that? Because if that's false, then we need to set our, and not is just the opposite of the Boolean, not just the we want to set it to false. So we just want to say, like, hey, if your frame count's bigger than 2 and your frame 1 is false, then actually we don't need this just yet. This is hard to think about. Okay, so let's walk this through. Like, let's ignore this real quick, but we're temporary safety. We start frame 1, we set our viewport appropriately. we increment a thing called spawn frame count plus 1. So now at some point, we need to swap our spawn frame 1 to false so that we can see, and we need this too eventually, but we need to say the same deal. That we're going to increment our speed, or spawn count rather. We're going to increment our spawn count by 1, but we're never resetting our spawn count back to 0, which we got to do right here. For greater than 2, then our self dot spawn frame 1 spawn frame count gets equal to 0. Then if fucking Christ, what I was trying to do here. So we're incrementing this spawn frame count. That's going to be the variable that allows us to choose how many frames until we switch viewports. But the thing is, we need to swap our spawn frame 1 at some point, and that some point is on frame count being higher than 2. So if it's higher than 2, give us 0 for it so we can count again. And then if we're spawn frame 1, then we want to be not spawn frame 1. That's right. Otherwise, we want self dot spawn frame 1 to be true. Is that right? What did I had it as false, but this is, so like let's say this is our first spawn, we'd be blue, so our self spawn frame 1 is true. We reset our frame count, our spawn frame 1 is true. We assign our frame 1 to be false now, at which point this line of code won't go until it's bigger than 2, and then since it'll be false, this will go, which is our frame 2, increment our frame count, and then until we're bigger than 2, now we're false on our spawn frame 1, so this won't execute, but this will. And we're false on spawn frame 1, but we want to be spawn frame 1 to be equal to true, yeah. And then we're actually rendering it here when we check, hey, are we spawn frame 1? If so, do frame 1, otherwise do frame 2. Let's see. Yes. Dude, it's perfect. 3 frames is like perfect, right? I feel like the you know what? I'm curious what the it's almost like I feel like I need to change our vulture color. See, we need to add the egg side collision too, because that just detected I don't know what that detected, but that was fucked up. See, I don't like how exactly like the vultures we look like, because we're red just like the players are. Yeah. I think I need to make our ostrich skin the opposite color of whatever our jockeys are. So let's make it, yeah, make it like yellow. Yeah, we'll make it like a yellow, like our player is. So if we go into our sprite, our A sprite, we'll snag an eyedropper of our player real quick, and we'll open up our temporary safety atlas. And we'll change our ostrich skin color to be equal to that yellow I just didn't like how much like the enemies we looked like when we were spawning. I want to give us a little bit of a different look. Now we need a little bit darker. I think that looks sick. A little bit darker for this other spot. But otherwise, you know, save this, and then now when we do it, yeah, I'm not so much in love with the yellow. Let me look at the original. Oh no, I don't think I saved it, did I? Look at the original and see what the ostrich's skin color is, because I changed the color scheme when I made our sprites, just because I didn't want to directly rip off Joust. I wanted to kind of jazz it up a little bit. But that means that when we were spawning, we were like the same exact color as the vultures, and it just didn't look right. So if we open this footage to look at real quick, we can see what is going on with the picture. Actually, no, yeah, look, the original, you know, they look exactly like the villains. I don't really like that. It looks busted to me. I need to dissect that flashy and see what... I don't like the way that looked. Maybe we'll do a brighter red. How about that? So instead of this red, we'll actually go to a little bit brighter. A little bit less saturated, a little bit brighter. And we'll fill in all that shit. Now, we want a little bit of shading here. Not that much. Let's try that. So we'll save this as our temporary safety atlas. I didn't like it when it was exactly the same red as the other ones. It just looked weird to me. Okay, now we're like pink. Okay, that was fucked. It didn't kill us. It's almost like the white overpowers the blue. You know, let me see the original and see what that's looking like. Well, yeah, because I mean, yeah, remember when we were figuring this out, I didn't even realize it was blue until we did the frame by frame. Because if I die, yeah, you don't really see blue. It just looks like flashy flash. Yeah. Uh-oh. And no hitbox on the vulture that runs, but you can still get a hitbox on the Joust after an egg hatch. So I don't think I realized that, but that's pretty cool. Oh, okay. Let me take a look at this. I like it. That's awesome. Slightly brighter pink. It gives us that little bit of edge when it's like, boom, you're not temporary safety. You know, like it kind of just like snaps you into it a bit, which I like. Yeah. I think that's great. We got this, yeah, the same color, just like the original, where we look a lot like our villains, but we're flashing. And then I made it a little bit brighter pink instead of the same red, which I think looks better. I think I'm happy with that. let's take a look at our code real quick to see if there's anything we might want to tidy up. Like this, get rid of this. You know. So yeah, this is this is temporary safety sprite switching. Then we'll actually go about this and this so that we can do this, not have to look at that. Which is at least a little bit helpful because like, dude, this is the biggest, this one class, ostrich class, 668 lines of code. That's the biggest class I've ever written, for sure, by far. Animation cycle, input handling, enemy collisions. The rest is just kind of random stuff I don't really know how to organize better. But, we can scroll through our whole thing like that, so that's nice. We don't have a self.score in our ostrich anymore because we have it in our play state. Self.score? No. Are we doing our score? Yo, guys, where are we doing our score? Our score is a global. Yeah, global. Okay. I'm gonna put my boolean with my boolean for OCD's sake. I think I'm happy with that. Okay. Yo, guys, we did it. We'll make sure. Actually, I kind of want to turn our keylogger back on for some reason. But our keylogger, oopsie. We're not rendering our keylogger. No, yeah, this is in the render function. We're not rendering our keylogger though. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. We're not spawning anymore correctly. We're not flickering anymore. Oh no. What did we change? Oh. Do we undo? We commented that out is the thing. So if we leave that commented out, or commented in, then we can minimize it. Then we can go and tidy up our, well, I just saw like a dangling end somewhere. God. I could have sworn I just saw a weird dangling end. What the fuck was going on here? We've got keylogger on, but we're not rendering it. Or we're overriding it. Like, let's try write with a -200. And just see. Yeah. Okay. Yep, never mind. I don't think I want keylogger on. I mean, I kind of like it for your guys' sake, so you guys can see it, but it's so fucked right now. Shit. Here, turn that shit off. Are we blinking correctly? And we're spawning correctly. Okay. Nice. See, that's fucked. If we're spawning, yeah, look at that. If we're spawning and we do an input, we just disappear. So I think shit, how do we fix that? It's like we can put all of our input handling inside a if not temporary safety. Because if we look at shit, this is it's like just a little bit too far of a commit, you know. It's like I kind of want to just commit this so we don't break anything any further than this before we have a snapshot. I think this was the dangling end I was talking about. Yeah, you know what? Let's just do a snapshot of it and we'll fix it. We'll fix it next. But temporary safety renders flashy player. Got it. So we need, this is fine. We need fix input. Wow. Wow, temporary safety. Or while spawning, wow, rather. So we'll just have to do some digging in that and make sure that our left and right inputs do nothing if we're spawning, then do everything they're supposed to do if we're done spawning. Because the second we're done spawning, we're still temporary safety, but you'll be able to walk out of it. Like if you were holding right as you were spawning invincibility, you should not move to the right until you're done spawning to the very top, and then you should move right and lose your temporary safety, which I'm going to double check right now is the case in the original. So I'm holding right. Well, I've got to die first. So let me die first. And then, yeah, I was holding right that whole time. Holding right, but we don't start moving until we're done spawning. So that's how it should be, but ours is just deleting us because we didn't factor that in. I don't know exactly why it's deleting us, but we need to fix that. So we'll do that next. But we got spawning, or we got temporary safety. We got temporary safety in action. It's looking like the original. I'm pretty happy with it, except we don't spawn with temporary safety. We only get temporary safety upon dying. So we need to spawn our, what do we do? Well, and that's the other thing is like we're actually spawning from the bottom, whereas that's another thing. I'll add that to the list and we'll do that next too. We'll do start player without spawn, only temp safety upon death, not upon initialization. Well, yeah, your first life doesn't have it, but every other life does. So we'll have to do both of those, but not bad. We take a look at all we added today. It was our temporary safety atlas as a field, a frame count, a spawn frame boolean, a quad. Then we did all the logic for the switching, which was incrementing our spawn frame count, switching our quad if our frame count was higher than a given number, and swapping our spawn frame 1 to be the opposite boolean depending on which one it currently is. And then also this part is that we're making sure, like, we're not trying to draw our normal sprite if our temporary safety is true. So if our temporary safety is true, we want to draw the temporary safety one. But if it's not true, we need to check that now. Because just because we're not spawning and just because we're not exploded doesn't mean we draw our normal ostrich, because we could be in temporary safety. So we have to check, hey, are we in temporary safety? You know, only draw the neutral ostrich if we're not in temporary safety. So that's what that line is, what those lines are. And then this is the how to draw the temporary safety. So not too many lines, took out a couple empty lines, took out a weird, if vultures exploded, render egg. That's got to be so old, because I think that's in the that's got to be in the, I don't know why that was in there and it was commented out. So we'll do a get add everything to the staging area with a commit message saying we added temporary safety sprite flicker. Add a temporary sprite flicker. Cool. Because we had the functionality, 35 insertions, 18 deletions, and then we'll get pushed to our origin main. Cool. And we committed before midnight. We did miss two days of programming. I'm not beating myself up about it. But if you go to the repo joust, yeah, you see we missed 2 days. Not so proud of that, but it's whatever. Still mostly green. We go mostly green. That's fucking great. We got green. It's those 2 days. That's okay. I was super busy. Today. I worked all day today. I'm super glad I toughed it out through programming. We're good to go. We're done. Great. We got a couple homeworks for next episode that aren't too bad. We almost made it a whole hour. Not bad at all. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, and we'll try to fix those last two temporary safety things. Then we're probably on to the egg glitches I've been seeing. Like if we kill the ostrich at the bottom as he's spawning, it fucks the egg. Like I think I need to give. Actually, yeah, I think I need to not check for collision until they're done spawning. I'm gonna add a note of that. No vulture collision until done spawning, because that might fix our bug of the egg. But then we also need, there's a side collision for the eggs that's just so hard to test, but I think we can do it. It shouldn't be too hard. Like if we do, we'll do a AABB collision, but only on the certain sides of the egg and platform. So like if the left side of the egg collides with the right side of a platform, then we know we need to swap its DX, and then otherwise, or if the right side of an egg with the left side of a platform, we need to swap its DX negatively. And that might fix the little bug we saw today, which is like I killed a guy right by a platform and the egg kind of flew into it, and then it went on top of the platform, because it does have bottom collision, but it doesn't have side collision. So like it detected this collision, which should have been a side collision, and bounced this way, but instead it's like, oh, bottom collide, so then it moved it to the top. So we just need to fix that. But yeah, talking about that hit us an hour. So we'll call that a lucky hour, and I'll see you tomorrow.